I had a really good Go teaching session with Nathan, and we tried out something new, which is that Nathan would watch me play a ranked game on the online Go server. And what I would do is I would try to talk out any of the things I was thinking through as I played. And this would allow him to get a better sense for how long I was taking per move, if I was spending too much time on moves that didn't matter, if I was going too quickly or slowly in different spots. And also he could get a sense for how much I was reading and how much I wasn't reading, all these sorts of things. And so I played a game, took a little while to find a game. And I was going to do a longer main time game, but I ended up choosing a shorter one because it took a while to find a game. And the feedback afterward was really interesting. My teacher said, first of all, I noticed that you weren't reading a whole lot. You were going a lot off of intuition. And I don't know if that's simply because I knew I was being watched. It's been a little bit of a while since I've played a game. And so maybe that just led me to not want to read as much. I think I often feel time pressure. I don't know if other people can relate to that. And so he noticed that I was playing a lot off intuition, which was actually making me have decent shape in the moves I was playing. But then on the other side, there would be spots where reading would be very necessary and important, and I wouldn't really quite read it through, or I'd even say, oh, I should do this, but then I wouldn't go ahead and do that. And so it would lead me into trouble. And so it was interesting to hear where my strengths were, where my weaknesses were, according to Nathan, and getting that different perspective. So now this is like another thing we can try to do on top of our other activities that we do during teaching sessions. So it was really refreshing. It was nice to get that different type of activity. So it's a lot of fun. So with that, let's get started. This is All Things Go. Next up is my interview with Vadim Efimenko, one of the co-founders of Go Magic, and also the main instructor for their impressive lineup of Go tutorials. Take a listen. First of all, Vadim, where does the story start for you with getting into Go? Like, what was the initial thing that happened? What was your first interaction?
Back in college, I was a chess player, and it's been going on for quite a while. And I was, seriously studying chess openings and actually playing tournaments. And then one day, a friend of mine saw a picture of me, like over a chessboard, and he said, "Hey, but do you know how to play Go?" And of course, I said no. And then there was a Go club in our local town, and I was invited. And so I came. They showed me the rules, and I was immediately hooked.
And did you find it as, I'll use the word addictive, did you find it as addictive as chess? How did you find it different?
I find it sort of liberating, because in chess, I was a little bit concerned about this, that you have to memorize so many different openings, and every game sort of goes, it's like a railroad, It's always going in one direction, and it feels imminent. But in Go, there's like, all right, there you go. This is the board is your oyster. You can do whatever you want. And that felt fresh and different.
Talk a little bit more about some of your background. So you're professionally a linguist, you speak English, Russian, Chinese, some French, and then you also love traveling. So I believe you're in Vietnam right now and spent some years in China, you were in India. How did all of this start? I know you had some story on the website about where everything began between you and Anton, but maybe you can take us through that a little bit.
I was in China teaching children, and it was fun. It was cool, but it was getting kind of a little bit stale. And I was thinking at that time, well, what can I change? What can I change to keep traveling and also keep doing something fun that maybe not necessarily teaching English the entire time? And then Anton had this idea for, can we like team up and do something to make a project about Go? Of course, we had no vision at the time how big or how little it was going to be. So he just said, well, you want to try this? And I said, yeah, that sounds like fun. Let's try.
So that was back in, I believe it was December 2019, thereabouts, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
Something in that time frame. So then you guys really started with this project. The way the story goes, you two started playing with the different ways, I believe it was in Russia at the time, of starting to record and do videos. And you quickly found out, if we want to do this in both Russian and in English, it's really going to be incredibly time intensive. So you decided to focus in first on English. What was that process like of discovering the level of time and effort that was going to be involved and then making adjustments?
Well, I remember the first video that we took. It's not like you can't find it online anywhere. And I think I still have it somewhere back home. It was me in my apartment sitting over a table. And there's like this flowery wallpaper background behind me. Because we had this vision that I come back home and over the summer, we prepare a few courses and we film everything. And then like in September or October, I would leave and go to some other country and keep teaching. So like I come back, I do this real quick, we get it all rolling, and then I leave. But then, of course, after I started filming, I realized that, whoa, this is going to be a lot harder than I had imagined. And it's like, I can't say this thing, or this one I forgot again, and this one I don't know how to write. So it's like, it's September and we haven't even filmed a single course. And this is when we realized that, okay, I probably need to stay and we have to do it seriously.
Now that we are 5-6 years on, did you think that this project would take you as far as it did time-wise?
I don't know. One of my superpowers is not to have a lot of expectations and plans. I just keep going. And as long as something is fun and it still keeps being fresh and exciting, I just let it go.
It's been really a pleasure to just watch through the videos, the courses, seeing the level of quality. And I think it's fair to say that in many ways, Go Magic has set that bar. Hats off to you and Anton and everybody on the team.
Yeah, it's also hats off to Mike, our editor, because he's the one who is behind all the visual magic. And we found him very early on, and he joined us as the third founder. And we're now incredibly lucky because he has also the same kind of passion and desire to, keep things moving and never stop and never just keep things the same. So he keeps developing as we are developing. And that's why, videos always look a little bit different, a little bit not quite the same as the previous course.
Vadim, tell us a little bit about the iterative process that you and your team has gone through as you make these videos, because I remember seeing in the earlier days videos about basics, the 9x9 board, then the 13x13, and there would actually be adjustments and changes. How do you think about revising and changing along the way?
This only pretty much happened once. This is the course on fundamentals on 13x13.
Yes.
And it only happened because we thought that this is one of the most, key courses on the platform. This is where people will go after they just learned the rules. So they've discovered the game. Now they know what it's about. And they are like, okay, I want to know more. Show me more. And this is where they go. And then that was one of the first courses that we ever made. And back then it was still, in our tiny apartment, everything was cheap. Cameras were cheap. The sound was bad. Everything was like low level and the editing was not up to par. And of course, now we've been upgrading it very slowly, like little by little. And we got a new camera, we got a new microphone, we got this and that. And now we got everything's in 4K right now, for example. And so at some point, we just compared what we're doing right now to that first course. And we're like, oh my goodness, it sucks visually. And being the crucial course as it is, we thought, well, let's just do it all over again. And this time it's going to be technically better. And that's what we did.
So 5 years in, Go Magic has hit some major milestones in terms of growth. I remember seeing some time back on your Discord channel about how many people you had participating. I mean, it's just grown by leaps and bounds. Looking back, how has the project met your expectation? I know you just told me that you don't set a lot of expectations, but even still, I'm sure you and the team wanted to have some general sense of where you were hoping it would go.
Well, I said that I don't have expectations. It doesn't mean the team doesn't. Especially Anton. I mean, I guess also I'm very lucky that Anton is my direct opposite. Like I am this kind of crazy, free floating guy with like lots of, wild ideas. But Anton always like keeps a very cool head. And so he's very analytical. And so he, I think, maintains a steady vision on how this is going to go. and he helps me also to keep me in control. So yes, we are always planning something new and always setting new goals. And yeah, but it is kind of surprising. I think neither me nor Anton could visualize exactly this 5 years ago. So we couldn't see it coming. And now that the goals that we have right now on where we want to go next are just hard to imagine for a 5 year ago me.
And it also reminds me back at what your team was talking about in the earlier days, particularly during the pandemic, where you were discussing the fact that you see the most viable way of spreading Go or increasing its popularity is through this gamification, right? Having the skill tree, having the courses where there's interactive problems to solve in the middle of the course. Where have you gotten to in terms of understanding level of engagement that it's had? Has it proven out what your team hoped, which is that you really can spread this in a commercial setup? What are the changes that you've had to make, I guess, along the way?
Yeah, we just keep tweaking a little bit here and there, and yes, gamification. I would say it's not nearly as gamified as I would personally want it to be, because right now it's already pretty good. There's some stuff going on, right? For example, you solving quizzes right in the lesson. This is pretty nice. But for example, if you go to the skill tree, it is well planned, really well designed, but unfortunately, it's not as addictive and fun. It's not as like maybe even as Duolingo fun or as like 101 Weiqi where you have a lot of quick problems going on. It's Chinese, and we'll need to keep working on making things even more fun and even more like entertaining, so that people, don't think of this going to Go Magic as kind of a chore.
I've heard in my process of interviewing other key figures in the Go community, such as yourself, what I hear again and again is this interesting catch-22, which is that something will come along, whether it's the AlphaGo documentary or it's Hikaru no Go, one of these major events, and there will be a huge influx of initial interest. And then what will happen, whether it's a few months later or a half a year later, there will be a drop back down, whether it's back to where it was, I'm not sure. And that always seems to come back to this concept that Go is fairly easy to understand those rules, but as we know, it's incredibly difficult to master and it takes a lifetime. And that's some of the reason why a lot of us love the game, because there's just so many layers. How do you think about that and this gamification side of things? Obviously, you want to make it addicting for good, right? To spread the word. Do you feel like it's breaking through that barrier?
Not yet. I don't think so. I'm just trying to imagine me at this point. I'm not a very passionate Go player. I mean, I play every once in a while, especially if I find someone who's like exactly my level and I know the game is going to be fun and we could spend like a whole afternoon playing without thinking about time. That sounds like fun.
Sure.
But I don't really play like I don't go on a Go server and like play 5 games in a row. I never do that because there's no time for that anymore. But if we manage to, make some really fun mini games, it's surprising how so many people visit our website to play the catch the cat mini game.
I love that game. It's so much fun.
It's insane, but it's also telling you something that, well, if you maybe put enough Go related fun into this, then this could distract people's minds off of the drudge and the chore and the hard work that they need to put in, and they could just have a good bit of fun. Yeah, I mean, eventually that probably means that there's got to be some Go games played on Go Magic, and I think that's unavoidable. At some point, there's got to be either a Go server connected to it, or I don't know, our own Go server. I don't know how exactly it's going to be, but we'll need to set up some games on Go Magic somehow.
From the beginning, you two and really your whole team has been very clear about using Discord and using the online presence to do surveys and ask people what they care about. So you'll send out a survey saying, would you like to learn about this kind of thing in a new course? Would you like to learn about that sort of thing? That process has been really refreshing because I think it gives an immediate amount of feedback from whoever's out there and learning what they want to do. What else informs the creative process? So what's a proverbial day in the life, so to speak, when you are in content creation mode, you're talking with your team, you're working on the videos, you're working on scripting? Can you give us a little bit of a sense?
Well, unfortunately, this creative work is these days only 20-30% of the whole of the whole work. And this is a little bit upsetting because I wanted to take more time. Whereas, like, a lot of times you just do some technical things. You edit some Go problems, or you edit some articles, or you do some very, very simple technical things that have nothing to do with actual creative scripting of a course. But when it does happen, when I need new videos or a new course, it would take a lot of time alone when I would just, wander around and think of how I want to structure things. And then I'm going to pitch it to the whole team. I'm going to come and I'm going to say, okay, I'm ready. Let me show you what I got. And we will walk through this. I will deliver the course in brief. And then everyone will share what they think and how it all sucks in many different ways. And I'll make some, notes, and I'll make some adjustments. And it will keep going and going and going until finally I have the final script. It's different every time, but you don't want to know, I think, how many times it takes to make one course. Because if you knew, you'd never want to, do that again.
At one point, you had on the website about, I think it was thousands of hours. I mean, literally, to do some of these things. That's really interesting. And it's one of those things where I think for a lot of us, when we're educating or teaching like you do, there's very much this knee-jerk reaction to say, well, we just got to get it done. We have to get it in and get something out there. The problem is there could be a sacrifice in quality. And so it becomes very apparent in the Go Magic website that there hasn't been that sacrifice in a really good way, making those small adjustments and tweaks so that it's just right. So that really comes through. What are the parts that speak to you the most, that you enjoy the most about the process?
Getting those extra 3% at the top as a little cherry on the cake, which is, this is a constant back and forth between maybe me and the team, because of course, the marketing division and Anton and everyone else will be, of course, pushing to make things faster, because they reasonably assume that I can make things, quickly. I can write the course and I can film the course pretty fast, and it would still be the same, the same Go Magic course for me, and without really any compromise. But there won't be anything extra in it. There won't be anything incredible, anything new. Maybe the end user won't even notice it. But to me, it will be very different. And that's where I just can't calm down when I have an idea that, oh yeah, how about this? Or how about that? How about we add a little character in there, or something crazy like this? And I'm being reminded all the time that we're running a business and not really, writing a series of Harry Potter books. So
Right.
there's no need to push myself to the next limit every time. That's what everyone's saying. And I mean, to a certain extent, I think they're right.
I'm sure you each provide each other that important checks and balances, so to speak, to say,
yes,
we can go this level, but perfection sometimes is a tricky goal to strive for. So I can understand that. Tell us a little bit more about how Go Magic has really connected with the community. I see that you offer subscriptions and things to Go clubs. I see that you're often trying to connect with events and tournaments. What's happening in that area?
Of course, we're trying to make it profitable, but why we started all this is because we just wanted to make Go a more popular game worldwide. So to us, if we have something to share, we want to share it with everyone. We collaborate with lots of different tournament creators, and starting from some smaller local tournaments to, American Go Congress or European Go Congress. We offer every Go club that has at least 5 members in it some support, ranging from giving them the gold membership so they can use it in their classes and, benefit from this, to, for example, even one of our Go Magic members will contact them and maybe help them improve things in their Go club to just help them grow and develop. If we can help in the same way that Devin Frey's helped by creating his Baduk club, that would be awesome.
Maybe we can shift for a second and go back to your personal story. So I want to hear about the time you spent in China. So you studied under Yan An, a 7-Dan pro. You were in China for 5 years working and living there. How did you come upon studying under this Chinese professional, and what was it like?
I think this was back then. It was advertised on Gojuan's website, the International Go School. It was one of the few places that offered people from Western countries coming to an Asian country and being able to study there. At that time, I didn't speak any Chinese or anything like this, so I just went there and I was like, okay, let's dive in and see where it goes. And yeah, it was a crazy experience. Yan Laoshi is a great teacher. I think a lot of the things that from his teaching style and how he taught me, maybe some of those things can be seen in my Go Magic courses, because he didn't speak almost any English. He had a very limited vocabulary.
Hmm.
And I naturally didn't speak any Chinese, but very quickly he would say certain things over and over again, and he would gesture heavily. I would learn to understand certain Chinese words, what they meant, and of course the English words, put it all together. And he was so expressive and so vivid, and so such a great teacher and so kind that it made it a real pleasure to learn.
That's so cool. Now, how would you mostly be learning if the language barrier was there? Was it pretty much exclusively through playing games over and over and reviewing them, or were there other ways?
It was, crazy amounts of hard work. Well, that's what it was. Like eventually, a lot of people, they romanticize. They think, wow, people going to China to study the game. Wow, that's got to be amazing. But of course, what it was actually is, you sitting in the room over the board and solving problems day in, day out. You wake up and first thing in the morning you do after breakfast, you start doing that. And then you start learning Joseki, or you start solving problems again, the whole day till it's time to go to sleep. And then, somewhere in the middle, you play a game against Yan Laoshi, and he'll review it. Like he will really make it obvious to you how you slipped up and why it happened. And after a while, you're like, oh my God, you start kicking yourself for how obvious it was. So but it was a lot of hard work. And I'm not sure, I really don't feel any jealousy when I look at some 17-year-old kid who's like now top amateur player, because I know how much suffering went into that. And I'm like, well, I'm not sure I'm prepared to sacrifice that many years in order to become, I don't know, a 9-dan Fox player or something like that.
If you had the same opportunity to go to China and do something like that, would you find that an attractive opportunity still to do? Or do you feel like now in 2024, with things like Go Magic, there's a lot more opportunity to do it in a different way?
It's hard to say, because back then we didn't have any AI. So there was nobody to tell us what to do. And now technically all you got to do is, especially if you are an advanced level player, you just play a game, analyze it, play a game, review it, and then just repeat that. And it's just that I don't really do it anymore, but there's other ways. But of course, if I had a chance to go to China, I could probably do it just for the fun of being in China, because now I've grown to also like China and feel of it as almost like a second home. So when I go there, I feel like I'm almost like at home. Seeing Yan Laoshi again, that would be an amazing adventure. So I would still do it. That was only 3-4 months. It feels like a long time when you're there, because there's no breaks, there's no vacation. You just keep at it, and no day off, because on Saturday and Sunday, the teacher would take us to his Go schools where he teaches the kids. And this is actually the time when you are the most busy. Because this is when you get to play the entire day against the kids at the school. And the kids would beat you badly.
Do you have any funny stories of playing the kids?
There was this kid that everyone else called by a monkey name for some reason, but he was super fidgety, and he never even cared about playing me. And every time he would run to the board, he would just take a quick glance at it and quickly set up the stone and run away again, not to see me how I'm thinking there for such a long time. Oh, what a boring guy I was. We had this sort of rivalry with this kid, because after maybe I lost a couple of games, I realized that he was just very good at Tsuji and quick reading. So I started implementing my strategy skills, and he was not very strategic. He was very tactical. And so I started beating him too. And we got this very funny rivalry going on. He was visibly upset when he was losing to me. He didn't expect this. He was like, this white guy, how can I possibly lose to this? Who is that? So he was trying hard. I was trying. I was doing my best, and we both really tried to beat each other. It was a lot of fun. And of course, there were some other kids who were so strong that even though they did this and just thought at my game for a fraction of a second every time, it would still beat me without thinking.
When you think about that time and studying under Yan Laoshi and going through that process, and then all the way to where you are today, really what you're doing is you're teaching, right? I mean, you're teaching on a regular basis in these online courses. It's interesting to see how it's one thing to do a lesson plan where you're pitching to your team the ideas and what you want to get across. It's quite another to execute it. What are some tricks of the trade or best practices that you feel like you've developed for giving concise and engaging content and videos?
That's a hard question. I mean, it's a little bit like asking a writer, like, how do you write your book? The writer tries to like reverse engineer it and like, okay, then I sit down and I come up with an idea and then I start, typing. That's kind of the same thing. I just I look at the course that I'm making and I try delivering it, and then I see that okay, it sucks. It just doesn't sound very exciting. Okay, I need to add this until I can deliver it, and I watch my own course and I can feel, wow, this actually looks fun. If I was back 10 years ago and I'm watching this, I would love to watch a video like this. That's the kind of feeling that I'm going for. Something that I would personally enjoy watching as a Go student.
And that's a fair point, right? You're going through these process of refining and further refining. But what I do hear, Vadim, in this whole process is that you're very open to criticism. You're very open to feedback.
Also, every once in a while, a friend comes along who says, oh, I'm going to watch some Go Magic course right now. And every time I ask them, I say, okay, well, please, once you do, let me know, what did you feel was off? What you feel was not quite natural in there. I know what was good because, we get a lot of comments out there saying, wow, thank you very much. And so I know the good things, but I might not necessarily know if something didn't work. And that's where different people's feedback could help, especially if the person maybe has some educational background too. If it's also a fellow Go teacher who also has quite a bit of experience teaching, and then they could maybe see things that, a regular Go player wouldn't.
That's great. And I really love that your team has been able to bring on European professionals, Korean professionals to come in and actually make courses themselves. Is that process a spontaneous one? Is that something where you're actively reaching out to the community, or were they reaching out to you? Any thoughts there?
Most of the time, it's us reaching out to people because a lot of people are just not aware of us. It's,
Right.
I mean, we think, oh, wow, we're so like, yeah, Go Magic is everywhere. But still, there are so many people and Go content creators out there who, after these 5 years, never even heard about us. And we have to reach out and say, hey, we're so-and-so. And would you maybe take a look at the website? And would you like to do something like that? But it is not easy to find content creators. Setting aside the fact that it's difficult to find someone who can deliver great content and do it spontaneously, and if they could just come here and to our studio, wherever the studio may be at the moment, and do it here, this is one thing. This is easier. But of course, traveling long distance is not for everyone. But then setting the studio up there, that is not easy at all. We have this giant scary document that Anton put together at some point that lists everything you need to basically create a Go Magic course in your apartment. And if you open that document, you probably never want to play Go again. You never want to, because it is really scary. When you read that, you're like, oh my God, there's no way I'm going through this process.
So right now you're in Vietnam, Vadim. Do you have a studio set up there, or because the content creation is only 20% of your time right now, there's nothing set up there and you have something set up elsewhere?
There's nothing set up just yet, but one of my friends here, I'm so lucky that he's a professional videographer and photographer, and so he has a studio apartment where he works, and he has all the equipment there. Plus, I brought all the our cameras and everything with me. So, as luck would have it, once I write the next script, which hopefully will happen very soon, then we will just quickly set up a studio and just roll the cameras.
That's great. Well, we're always excited for the next course. It's just been a real joy to have Go Magic. So thank you all for everything you guys do. And Vadim, thanks so much for your time. You've been incredibly generous.
Thank you, Travis. Thank you for having me.
Gazza White is back with us from the Professional Go Baduk Weiqi podcast to talk a little bit about how to spread Go in the West from a professional standpoint, and also try to understand why there is such a gap between Eastern and Western professionals.
Because the top talent is in Asia, my opinion is that the best strategy is to try and organize games against the top Asian talent on Fox or TaiGem.
Which these are like the biggest online Go servers, correct?
Yeah, the biggest online Go servers and the ones that are used by professionals.
I see.
Obviously, time and resources do play a factor, but it's a bit of a cop-out to say, it's a bit of an excuse. I think, to be honest, I think one issue that I do think is something that's hard to overcome is the time zone.
Hmm.
And this may have affected my appreciation and dedication to the professional scene, because when I was watching streams,
Mhm.
I'm watching them in Sydney, and Korea and Japan, China, they're maybe 3 hours different to Sydney, which is not much. So I'm watching these streams, the live streams at convenient times. Maybe for North America and Europe, it's
Sure.
not so convenient to watch these streams or arrange matches with the Asian players, because the time is either not convenient for them or the Westerners, or it's not convenient for the Asian players. It's a hurdle
Sure.
that is not so easy to overcome. And again, in the past, when there wasn't even a Western system, I suppose that the Europeans and the Americans who were committed or dedicated to becoming a professional player would actually move to those
Right.
countries, which is, obviously something that you would need time and money and the ability to dedicate yourself to that. Not so easy. I do hope that the scene in Europe and North America does get to a point where they're considered to be competitive, like seriously competitive with the Asian region. I think it's possible, but I'm not sure the exact sort of mechanism to do that.
Next up, I wanted to talk with somebody that knew and had a lot of background with the online Go server. And so I was able to ask around on the forums online, and I ended up learning that KoBa was somebody that was a good person to talk to. And so after much coordinating and trying to make things work on the calendar, we were able to connect, and KoBa was able to tell us about some of his personal experiences getting into Go, as well as some of the major milestones, developments he's seen with the online Go server and what he's witnessed as a online Go server moderator. So hopefully you enjoy. KoBa, thank you so much for hopping on.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. So I really wanted to talk to you because of your work with the online Go server, OGS. So maybe first you can just give us some background. How did you get into Go, and what led you to the online Go server, OGS?
It's the traditional story. I watched Hikaru no Go years and years ago and got interested about the game, and I learned about the rules of the game maybe 2006, 2007, and then took a long break before continuing the game about 10 years ago. Then I just Googled some Go server and found OGS, and here we are.
What then led you to become a moderator?
I'm not really sure. I was active on that server, or I've been active for the last 10 years. And a few years ago, Anoek, the guy who owns and runs the server, is the main admin there. He just one day asked if I could help with moderating, and I said yes.
Can you give us a little bit of a background? What does a moderator do on OGS, and why are they important to a well-functioning Go server?
Every online platform needs some moderation, otherwise it's just full chaos. But we don't have any specific roles, at least on the paper. There are a lot of reports about games which are scored incorrectly, or people have been escaping from their games or using an AI like Katago or something like that. So I guess the main purpose for moderators is to prevent people cheating, because we have game chats and we have forum and English, all kinds of chat rooms. So it's good to keep an eye on those.
So now that you've been a moderator for quite some time, what do you find you like most about doing the moderating?
Well, I'm still really active in the chat, so most of the times when I'm so-called moderating, I'm just chatting and keeping an eye what happens, because sometimes people come to chat asking some help or advice.
So you've been there since around when OGS was started back in 2016.
No. OGS was originally started around 2007.
Oh.
As a correspondence server, but Anoek took over the server, I think it was 2012, 2013, something like that. And I've been there since 2014.
Certainly during the more modern phase
Yeah.
of OGS. Okay. So what are some of the biggest changes you've seen over that period of time?
The user base has grown a lot. Like I remember when briefly after I had joined, the very first time when we had 400 people online at the same time. And it was big moment for OGS and everyone was so happy that, oh my God, we have 400 people online. And now we have pretty much always over 4,000 people.
Wow.
So it's gotten a lot bigger. The amount of live games that's been played, I'm not sure if I can say that there's always over 100 ongoing live games, but usually the number is somewhere between 150 and 200 ongoing live games at any given time. And that's pretty nice because originally it was just a correspondence server, where both players have multiple days to make their move. I'm myself mostly a correspondence player, so I have something like 100 ongoing correspondence games right now.
I was amazed with how many you could keep going at the same time.
On some of those games, I have 3 days per move. Some of those, I have a week to make my move. So it's not like I would need to play every single game every day, but
So maybe we can talk a little bit more about the fact that you're really active on the OGS forums. And there was an interesting conversation that you had a little while ago about proposals for how to set the starting ranks more accurately for newly registered users. You discuss some of the issues that have come from allowing new users to call themselves a higher ranking player or a Don level player, and that it created some quote unquote like a bad reputation for the server with stronger players. You mentioned that most of the new users, though, are generally less experienced players at lower ranks. So is there any particular focus at OGS to attract a particular level of rank for users, or do you think this is just luck of how things have happened?
Well, yes and no. OGS, yeah, we aim to be very beginner-friendly server. OGS works directly in browser, so there's no need to download some client and verify your email like some other Go servers, which makes it a lot easier for beginners to just randomly join OGS and see what the game is all about. Of course, we want to have those stronger players. We have professionals, we have strong down-level players. But I guess most down-level players already have their favorite servers where they play, and they are not that interested on testing out other servers.
And as part of this, the whole question of starting rank, if you are a Don level player that's played for a long time, and you say, oh, I want to try OGS, now you have to play some games before it becomes accurate.
Yeah, actually, we are right about to implement. I'm not sure when it's going to roll out, but in the future, OGS allows users to pick one of 3 or 4 starting ranks. So for some down level player, they may choose advanced level and start with 2K rank, so they don't have to fight their way up from 13Q.
Excellent. Tell me a little bit about what it was like to be involved with OGS back when AlphaGo was happening and it brought a huge influx of new users. So you mentioned in a post earlier this year, you said that you think maybe less than 5% of all new Go players actually keep playing beyond the first game or two. Any ideas for how to keep newcomers to stay with the game or how OGS could help with that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I guess the main issue is that Go is really confusing when you start out. There is just stones making random shapes on the board and you don't really understand anything. I feel like most people who heard about Go somewhere try it out, but are not really into confusing games like Go. I think it's only a small minority who feel that, oh, I don't understand anything. This is so interesting.
It's certainly not something to just do for a quick game when friends are coming over. It's not one of those games you learn. Well, you might learn them quickly, but as we all know, it takes a lifetime to master.
Yeah.
And I love that you had the information on your OGS profile that talks about exactly how many years, months, days it took to reach the 1 Dan level. I appreciated that. It showed a lot of humility around the fact that we're all on this journey of just learning more and more and more about the game, but it's in fits and starts, right? It just takes time.
Yeah, and for me personally, that was actually really big moment to get that 1 Dan rank for the first time, and it felt so great. I was so happy because it was almost 10 years, maybe something like 9 years of playing before I finally managed to get the 1 Dan. So I wanted to save that date somewhere.
I love that you put it on there because it shows a lot of, I think for a lot of us, it's also just like a personal achievement.
Yeah.
So maybe we can just finish, KoBa. How do you feel like your connection to the OGS server has built that sense of community in your life? So how has it extended to other parts of your life, either personally or professionally with your work or otherwise?
Where to start? It's been a huge part of my life in these past 10 years. When I started playing Go again, I didn't know that it's going to be lifelong hobby or long-term hobby. It was because I chatted with so many people there that I became friends with so many people. Then I was maybe about 15Q. One Finnish person in the OGS chat just asked me that, hey, we have a tournament coming next weekend. Do you want to join? And that was my first EGF ranked tournament. Now I've been going those for 10 years and I've gotten so many friends within not just my local Go community, but worldwide.
Well, KoBa, I just want to say thank you for hopping on with us to talk about your experiences and OGS. So thank you.
Thanks for asking me to join this interview.
In light of my conversations with Vadim and with KoBa, the question for this episode is, how have you felt Go has provided a sense of community for you, particularly in the online situation and particularly as we have gone through the pandemic and post-pandemic world? Let me know, and thanks so much.